Hello, and welcome to the True Crime Lounge. On True Crime Saturday, it is September 1st, 2022. It is pre-recorded. Um, I do apologize. I have not posted anything in a while. It has been a busy summer, and my fall classes are just now getting back started. And I'm everything's getting back into a rhythm, so hopefully you should have some more videos coming here soon. Um, so if you have read the title, then you know what we are going to be talking about. A murder spree so famous that he has his own fan group, as do every serial killer. Um, Before you step into the True Crime Lounge, tell me about something about Charles Manson that you find very interesting. Also, tell me someone you want me to talk about next. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more videos like this. Now let's grab our drink of choice and step into the True Crime Lounge. Since this is so long, I'm making this a 4-part series, so you can. So it's going to talk about different parts at different times. Um, so let's get started. Well, who is Charles Manson? Well, if you've been living under a rock, let me give you a brief description. He is a murderer. He was a cult leader, and prosecutors said that his followers were trying to incite a race war that he believed was prophesied in the Beatles songs Helter Skelter. Number of victims? 10. The dates of his murder: July to August 1969. His date of arrest: October 12, 1869. Date of birth: November 12, 1934. His victims include Gary Allen Hinman, Sharon Tate, who was also 8.5 months pregnant, Jay Seberg. I'm going to probably butcher some names up, so I apologize in advance. Rochester Prowski, Abigail Folger, Steve Earl Parrott, Lino Bianca, and his wife Rosemary, and David Jerome Shorty Shea. The method of stabbing with a knife. Location: Los Angeles, California. And his status: sentenced to death in April 1971, automatically commuted to life imprisonment with a decision the Supreme Court made for California to temporarily eliminate the state's death penalty. Now a little bit about Charles Manson. He was born November 12, 1934, as Charles Miles Manson. He is an infamous American serial criminal and musician who became known as the Manson family, a quasi commune that arose in California in the late 1960s. He was found guilty of conspiracy to commit the Tate LaBianca murders and carried out by members of the group by his instruction. He was convicted of the murders through the joint responsibility rule, which makes each member of the conspiracy guilty of crimes of fellow conspirators. Manson is associated with Helter Skelter, which I have read that book, by the way, a term that he took from the song Helter Skelter, written and recorded by the Beatles. Manson misconstrued the lyrics to be about an apocalyptic race war. He believed the murders were intended to precipitate. From the beginning of his notoriety, this connection with rock music linked him with pop culture to eliminate became an emblem of insanity, violence, and the masquerade. This term was later used by Manson prosecutor Bugalosi as the title of the book he wrote about the Manson murders. At the time the family began to form, Manson was an unemployed ex-convict who had later spent half his life in correctional institutes for a variety of reasons. Before the murders, he was a singer-songwriter on the fringe in Los Angeles and music industry, chiefly through chief association with Dennis Wilson. Founding members of the Drummers include the Beach. Founding members, chiefly through a chance association with Dennis Wilson, who, if you know the Beach Boys, he was a founding member and drummer. After Manson was charged with the crimes he was later convicted of, recordings of songs and performed to him, which was released commercially, artists including Guns N' Roses and Marilyn Manson have covered his songs in the decades. Manson's death sentence was automatically commuted to life in prison when a 1972 decision by the Supreme Court of California temporarily eliminated the state's death penalty. California's eventual reestablishment of capital punishment did not affect Manson, who is currently incarcerated at Corcoran State Prison. We're going to take a short break and we're going to come back to his early childhood. And we are back to part one of our four-part series on Charles Manson. Now, we're going to talk about his early childhood. Born to an unmarried 16-year-old named Kathleen Maddox in Cincinnati General Hospital, Ohio, Manson was first dubbed as No Name Maddox. Within weeks, he was Charles Miles Maddox. For a period after his birth, his mother was married to a laborer named William Manson, whose last name to the boy was given. The boy's biological father appears to have been Colonel Scott, against whom Kathleen Maddox filed a, I'm not going to repeat that word, well, I'm just going to say it, bastardly suit that resulted in an agreed judgment in 1937. Possibly the boy will never really knew. Several statements in Manson's 1951 case from 7 months he would spend later spend at a national training school for boys in D.C. allude to possibly that Colonel Scott was African American. This includes the first two sentences of his background section, which read, "Father unknown. He is alleged to have been a colored cook by the name of Scott, with whom the boy's mother and him had been promiscuous time of his pregnancy." When asked about these official records by attorney Vincent Bolowski in 1971, Manson emphatically denied that his biological father had African American ancestry. In a quasi-autobiography, Manson, in his own words, Colonel Scott is said to have been a young drugstore cowboy, a transient laborer, working on a nearby dam project. It is not clear what nearby means. The description in the paragraph that indicates Kathleen Maddox gave birth to Manson while living in Cincinnati, after she had run away from her home in Ashland, Kentucky. Manson's mother was allegedly a heavy drinker, according to the family members, as she once told her son for a pitcher for whom the uncle retrieved for him some days later. While Manson's mother was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment for robbing a Charleston, West Virginia service station in 1939, Manson was placed in the home of his aunt and uncle in McMecken, West Virginia. Upon her 1942 parole, Kathleen retrieved her son and lived with him in run-down hotel rooms. Manson would later characterize her physical embrace on her son. On the day she returned from prison, as his sole happy memory. In 1949, Catherine Maddox had her son placed in foster home, but failed because no such was available. The court placed Manson in Gilbert School for Boys in Terre Haute, Indiana. After 10 months, he fled from there to his mother, who rejected him. That is it for part one of our Charles Manson series. Um, Anything that shocked you about this? I'm just curious. I will see y'all next time in part two.